Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Anaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai. Do you want a copy? You memorized everything. So we're reading from chapter 12. This is a very beautiful chapter called the devotional service. And was anybody over here for the last Tuesday session? You were there? Fantastic. So you left at verse 9 is what I was told. We are doing verse 10 today. Last week? That's interesting. No, so yeah, means I have 12:10 given to me. Okay, let's use 12:10 based on that, and then yes, this is on your books is 484, the page number. We'll read the translation of 12:10 and the purport for it together, and then we will look at the verses before and after. It's a very beautiful set of verses in which Krishna is explaining something very beautiful, which we'll try and understand in our own analogical terms in order to be able to get it into realization form. Let's see if we are able to do that by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Do we have open? The verse 10, 484 page. I'm going to read the translation. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Purport: one who is not able to even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfection stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or a temple for propagation of Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activities, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Do you want a copy? Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're going to take a little back step because there are a couple of verses in which, see, we understand this is a conversation between two people, Arjuna and Krishna, right? So picking up a verse directly and going into it straight without a context might not help us out. Like it's like how media would do, right? Out of a full interview, they will just pick up one something and sensationalize it. And so we're going to go a few pages back. We'll start from verse 8 real quick. Okay? Yes, verse 8, that is 483 as a page number. I'm going to do quickly read the translation, and then we can discuss this a little bit. So, okay, let me first set up the context and stage for this. You know, when we have somebody, or it could be for us also, we all know we want to be healthy. We want to maintain our body in a good health. And for that, there are certain things that has to be done. Right? Always eat good, pure ingredients, very nicely healthy cooking, always don't go for any junk food, etc., etc. But then when we are trying to explain that to somebody who is right now in a very opposite lifestyle with very bad diet, which is not helping them out right now, we might want to break it down for them, say this is where you have to go, but at least start with cooking at home and eating at home and stop eating at restaurants. Even if you want to eat certain set of junk food, say what you want to have a pizza, at least make it at home. Then you would go to bring it next to the next level and said, if you're not able to do that also, at least start adding some healthy stuff into your diet. Add proteins, add fibers and all those different things. At least do that. Said even if you're not able to do that, at least start taking multivitamins, some supplements of sorts. Right? That is how we try and bring them the person to at least a starting point. We understand what the goal is. But if the person is not able to reach there, then we are trying to create a pathway for them to be able to reach there. So at least do something, because when you start doing something, when you start getting engaged in some way, you will see results. And those results will be encouraging enough for you to continue on the path and be more and more sincere, right? So Krishna is also doing the same. So verse 8, he starts with the highest level of where we have to be. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always without a doubt. So that's the highest stage. Just fix your mind upon me, and whatever you're doing, use your intelligence and engage that intelligence into me. Okay? Then he continues with the alternate paths. He says, my dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Then he goes further. He says, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect state. And then he says, if however you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all the results of your work, and try to be self-situated. And he finally concludes by saying, if you cannot take this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of fruits of action. For such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Ultimate goal is peace of mind, right? So let's start looking at the stages that Krishna is explaining over here, and this is very important for us. The verse 8 is talking about that stage which is where we are in pure love for the Lord. We are not in a love out of desire. We just love Him, right? Let's try and understand this and imagine this, right? When do we say that we love someone a lot? When we are loving someone, we automatically, continuously keep thinking about them. That's a very natural phenomena for us to do. You're walking down the street, you see something, oh, this is something that whom I love, likes a lot, so maybe I should buy it for them. Whenever you are doing some fun activity of some sorts, you will automatically be reminded of the loved person. You said, oh, if that person would have been here, it would have been so much fun. When you're doing something, you'll automatically think of the loved person and the person likes to do it in a certain way. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, you'll automatically think of the person that you love. Your extent of love is shown of how much are you able to remember the person, and what percentage of the day are you able to remember them, right? That shows what extent do we love. And then how much of actions are we performing in order to please that person shows our extent of love again. If you love somebody and the person is coming to your home, you're going to cook, you're going to dress, you're going to decorate things, do every arrangement in a way that the person likes, right? Even if that is not your own personal preference, you would keep your personal preference aside and say, the person I love, I'm going to do it as per them. This is the stage of what Krishna is saying as love me in that way that you're continuously thinking about me. You're constantly, whatever actions you're doing it for me. This is pure state of love. These do not come with any bondage or limitations or restrictions of any sorts. This is what we call as Raganuga Bhakti. Right? Raganuga Bhakti means it is out of spontaneous love that you're doing. Nobody has to tell you what has to be done. It is because of love. When you're a loved person, when you see them doing any sort of body action which shows them they're feeling a little hot, you will automatically go and switch on the fan. Nobody has to tell you that. When a person is coming out from heat, you'll automatically, the first thing you will do is out of love, give them a glass of water. You know that a person is reaching on such and such time to a train station or an airport, you'll automatically drive to pick them up. Nobody has to tell you these things. Right? That is Raganuga Bhakti, where out of love, automatically, spontaneously, things happen in the way it needs to be done. Now, we can see many examples of these in the scriptures. Mother Yashoda, Radharani, all the gopis, they're at that stage. And then, what is a very natural thing for us to react when we talk about such amazing personalities is, oh, they're up there, I am not possible for me to reach there. Right? We try to imbibe humility, we are being humble by saying, they are there, I cannot reach there, so that stage is unachievable for me, let's not even talk about it. You're talking about all of these good flowery things, but it's not an achievable stage to be at. But is that true? That state is actually a natural state. That is where we were and we are supposed to be. We are not there right now. We'll talk about why. But that's a natural state. As a living entity, as in parts and parcel of the Lord, that is a natural state to be in. If your natural state is to be happy, it does not take a lot of effort to be happy. It just takes you to stop being unhappy. So in the same ways, this state of pure love for Krishna is actually our natural state. It's not something that has to be artificially created. It is something that is achievable by every living entity because that was the original state from which we fell down in the first place. Why did we fall down is because we came to a point where we are saying, oh Lord, why are you enjoying everything? I also need to enjoy. And as soon as that aspect of saying, why only you and not me came in, that state of pure love broke. And we came down to this world to get trained, to be able to come back to that state again. To see what does it mean to be foolishly try and enjoy separately from the Lord. So that's what will be the ways in which we will help that person come to the point of being able to make a dining table. We'll set down rules for them. We'll set down guiding principles for them. Do this and don't do this. When you're chiseling out wood, do it like this. Don't increase the angle because it's going to, the wood is going to chip, etc., etc. When you're painting, go with clean strokes, etc., etc., right? We set down rules for them. For any skill set that we are trying to learn, May it be music, may it be art, may it be driving. We always start with rules. Why are those rules there? In order to bring us to the practice of being able to naturally start doing that action. So if you are a photographer, you know the rules of whenever you're taking a picture of somebody. Let me just give you the secret if you don't know this, right? When you're taking pictures, the rule is your subject needs to be at least 2/3 of the image. That's the rule. Okay? That needs to be in focus, needs to be 2/3. These are a couple of rules that goes in photography. Similarly, when you're doing music, you have to understand that there is beat cycles, you have to be on the beat. Even you're singing or you're playing a musical, there are rules everywhere. When we come to the point of following these rules and this entire process becomes natural to us, now we don't think of the rules. We just naturally, it comes by that ways, and now you're not limited. Sometimes you even break the rules, but still keep the thing nice, palatable, melodious. Right? So same is the process of bhakti. When we are trying to do an action or a thought for the Lord, ideally it has to be in pure love. But Krishna is saying, if you are not at that stage, if you're not being able to do that, then step aside. I'm going to dumb it down for you. I'm going to give you the do's and don'ts. And those do's and don'ts are the rules, the regulations of bhakti, which is now what we call as the sadhana bhakti. So sadhana bhakti is the bhakti where you follow rules and regulations in order to keep practicing till when we come to the natural state of doing it out of love. That aspect of cleanliness has come to the point where things happen naturally. So that is why these rules and regulations are important. So a lot of time when we have discussions with somebody, right, we are told, why does God want us to follow rules? It's just love that has to flow. It is that feeling that what matters, not how I do it. That is true. But only if we are at this stage of Raganuga Bhakti. If we are not, which we are not, that is why we are here. We are not at this stage of Raganuga Bhakti. That is why Sadhana Bhakti needs to be followed. The rules and regulations are therefore important. It is not just for the sake of being there or to control somebody. Every aspect of rule is very, 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 very important. Every aspect of the do's and don'ts is very important. Waking up in the morning, taking your shower, being clean, and so on and so forth. There are some rules and regulations which are very, very minute also. Now, if we want to really, really understand how to utilize our intelligence, our capabilities in the very right way, the book to be read is called Nectar of Devotion, or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's a very nice book, this thick approximately, but it's a nectar to read. Obviously, nectar of devotion has to have nectar. But that nectar, it very clearly talks about the do's and don'ts. Whys and everything. It's a very scientific process. We might, let's take an example again, right? I like analogies in order to try and understand things. Even if we don't understand things, we have to follow them in order to be able to sometimes come to a level of understanding. Whenever we have taken a flight, we have been told to switch off our electronic devices. A good percentage of people don't understand why. And they argue, they said, you're having such heavily sophisticated electronic equipment and an aircraft which is so modern, and you thinking just by my doing a message or doing a little call, the aircraft is going to come down. Not realizing the science behind it. That rule is for a purpose. For those who don't know, by the way, not because of a phone, but because of an equivalent, one of the worst aviation disasters has happened because of a reason that we are trying to avoid by that switching off the phones. For those who don't know. So, those rules and regulations, even if we don't understand, has to be followed, and it has to be followed because we don't understand. Had we had the understanding of it, we would have naturally done it. And we would have been at the Raganuga stage automatically. Just because we don't understand the aspect, that's why the rules have been laid down for us. We do that with the kids also, right? When we tell them, do this, do this, do this, do this. Exactly. Even if they don't understand, they follow it. But later on, they start understanding why we were being told in a particular way. Right? So those rules and regulations, how do we understand that? What is this entire process of sadhana bhakti? Again, a very nice, beautiful verse. As I said, Nectar of Devotion is the full encyclopedia in order. The entire set of knowledge is given in there very nicely. But the summarization around which the Nectar of Devotion would revolve is these 9 processes of bhakti that Prahlad Maharaj talks about in Srimad Bhagavatam. He talks about it as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. It all starts with the process of Shravanam, listening. But again, listening just by itself does not come by listening. It has, again, listening as a process has rules and regulations to it. What do I listen to? Whom do I listen from? All that matters. It has to be a proper authorized source through which the knowledge that Krishna has given to us needs to be transparently coming to us without any alterations. That actual process is Shravanam. Once we come to that point, that is when we put into action is Kirtanam. Kirtanam could be singing or speaking out what we have heard and sharing it with others, but it also means actions. Starting to follow what you heard. Because what's the point of listening if you're not putting it into action? Otherwise, you are at the stage 1 only, going to the next stage. And then Kirtanam, then we understand is, when we have started doing, then we are able to start remembering Krishna every time. That is Smaranam. And when we are now able to remember Krishna, that is when we are able to actually serve Him, that is Padya Sevanam. And then we are able to, in that way, worship Krishna, Archanam. We are able to do Vandana to Him, be His servant, and like that. And come to the point of Atma Nivedanam, of full surrender to Him. That process is the sadhana bhakti process that we follow. And it is a science. We can go into the details, but I want to complete the steps that is being said. So first step, out of love, spontaneous love, you're doing it. If you're not able to, let's dumb it down into rules and regulations. What does Krishna say next? He says in the next verse, he says, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then try to work for me. Let's go with our analogy again. We're trying to make a dining table. We are not intelligent enough to make the dining table ourselves to be able to understand what needs to be done and what does not need to be done. So we have been laid down with rules and regulations. Now I'm not even able to follow that instructions, like, IKEA gives you the furniture and it comes with an assembly instructions. Dumb enough not even able to follow that. What do we do now? Okay. Assist the person who is able to follow the instructions. Go get me the hammer fast. Go get me the screwdriver. In that ways, you are assisting. So you're not doing it, but you are contributing towards the making of the dining table by being an apprentice of a sort of helping out, and in that process of helping out, learning how it needs to be done. Right? So what is that Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport? He is saying, even if you are not able to fully follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, the sadhana, the full practice of sadhana where we are doing chantings and we are eating only Krishna Prasadam and so on and so forth, then at least come to the point of assisting. The assistance can be given in so many different ways. Either it can be done financially, saying, I have money, but I am not able to do anything, let me give donation. In that donation, by donating, I am able to assist in the service of the Lord. Or if nothing else, I will come down, I will mop the floor, I will do this, I will do that, I will do some sorts of a service. Or if nothing else, I am going out and saying, hey, come to the temple, come to the temple, come to the temple. Whatever ways are we able to assist, that assistance needs to be done. Now, if we are working in office, we always have to understand the point that you cannot keep doing the same thing always. If you are a junior resource, you cannot be doing the same activity. You are expected to become senior at some point before you get promoted. So before we come to the point of being able to perform sadhana bhakti, when we are assisting, that assistance also has to go to a level higher. First, we come into the temple and we said, Is there something I can help with? Said, oh, can you help me in washing the dishes? Slowly and steadily you come to assisting the services by saying, okay, now I will lead and I will engage others into doing this. Right? So if we have started doing a little bit of reading, we have got the Bhagavad Gita with us, we start doing the process of assisting by saying, okay, I'm going to go and give out as gift to others. Or I'm going to do Shastra Dan. These are ways in which we can work for Krishna. Now, what we have to also realize at this point is, sure, work for Krishna, but what percentage of our work is for Krishna? That is the training. When we are at the state of sadhana bhakti, under the guidance of a bona fide guru, a spiritual master, we are trained in order to be able to understand how every action can be performed for Krishna. How your office work can be done for Krishna, how your studies can be done for Krishna, how you managing your household can be done for Krishna. Till when we are not at that stage, we start assisting people by saying, oh, can I pick you up? Tomorrow Mangal Arati, I'll pick you up, don't worry. Some way or the other, we start getting engaged over there. And then we come to the point of getting engaged more in order to come to the point of engaging others. That is the level, right? So, I'm not able to make the dining table myself. I'm not able to follow the rules and regulations, the assembly instructions. Now I'm running around and giving out the instruments, the tools, in order to be able to assist somebody who is being able to follow that. But Krishna is very merciful. He's so merciful, he's saying, I know you people might not be able to do that also. So he goes on next. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. That verse 11. So in the analogy, let's go back. We have not been able to make ourselves, we have not been able to follow the instructions. We are trying to at least be an apprentice, and we are being so destructive, even in doing that now our only hope is, we have been told, please don't do anything. At least sit down in one corner and make sure or try to not destroy what I am doing. Don't go other way around. Right? So how does that work in that ways is that if we understand the difference between a body and a soul, if we understand that we are an eternal soul, we will act in that ways. A soul is eternal, spiritual in nature, has to be engaged into spiritual activities. But if we are into bodily consciousness, at least, this is where the line starts coming in, at least stop engaging into satisfying your senses and being in that bodily conscious deep that you are ignorant. So how can that be done? By saying, okay, you have got all of these resources. Stop using those resources in order to try and gratify yourself. How do we stop doing that? By at least not making ourselves the center. We're not at the spiritual level right now, but at least make somebody else the center. Your community, your society, your gender, your race, whatever you pick up, at least expand yourself and don't be limited to only trying to gratify yourself. So at this stage is where we try and talk about, okay, at least donate for some good philanthropic purpose. Go make hospitals. Do something at least where you are not only being self-centered and selfish. Okay? Now think about what we have heard so many times during our discussions and conversations. We talk about, oh, do good to others, be good, and that's the best. That's the lifestyle we would want to go. Where does it rank based on what we have read so far? Is that out of love, devotion, doing Krishna, working for Krishna? No. Is that sadhana bhakti level? No. So we are not even at level 2. Level 3 is being assistance in of some sorts of being able to help everybody get engaged in Krishna consciousness? No. Fourth, Krishna is saying at least do something for somebody else. Do good for somebody else. If we are saying, I just want to be peaceful, don't want to hurt somebody else, it's not even at the 4th level. It's probably at the below, even below that. Krishna does not even directly mention that, to be very honest. So our level of understanding of things is so down, and that is why the reading of scriptures is important. We are talking about that, okay, I have been doing all these punya karmas, all the good activities. All of these good activities is, oh, I've given a thirsty person some water, I've given a hungry person some food, I've helped somebody in need of medical care, giving them some medical care, I've helped somebody in need in some other way also. All of these things we think it so highly. But if we rank it out based on these verses over here, it is nowhere close to being where we need to be. So what is this exactly? Srila Prabhupada in many purports explain this. So we have, I told, was either we are in the spiritual consciousness, Krishna conscious, understanding ourselves as being the spirit soul, an eternal soul, or we are in the bodily consciousness. So bodily consciousness means my body is how we understand it. That's the lowest form. I need to be sure that I am wealthiest, I am the most handsome, beautiful, whatever. That's the bodily consciousness. But then that bodily consciousness expands from me, me, to mine. I need to make sure my country is the best. I need to make sure my friends are the best. My family is the best. That is nothing but an expansion of the body. It is still on the level of bodily consciousness. So that is why that comes in this category. At least stop gratifying your own sense only and take up some form of austerity. Austerity is some sort of difficulty in which you are getting into the habit of not hoarding everything for yourself but giving it out to somebody else. That charitable thing which is glorified like anything is that bare minimum that Krishna is saying you need to do. It's not what is expected out of us as eternal living entities. The expectation is higher, as we said. Now Krishna is again, as we said, super duper merciful, right? Let's look at, we are saying, even if you're not able to do this, what does Krishna say? He says, if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. Let's stop here for a second. Now we have come to the point from our analogy perspective, we could not make the table, we could not follow the instructions to assemble, we could not assist. Now we could not even sit down silently and not be destructive. So what would you say to such a person? He says, go into your room, sit down quietly over there and think of what you're doing. Right? A naughty kid is finally sent back to the room. I said, reflect on what you had done right now and think about it. That process of thinking is where knowledge is required. He's saying you're not been able to decipher out a very simple aspect, that the fact that you're trying to continuously gratify your senses which is so unlimited in their demand. If somebody comes and starts saying something good to you, have you ever said to anybody, oh, that's enough, I don't want to hear any more good, that's enough, my stomach is full. Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy for us to be able to understand how greedy we are in this aspect of bodily consciousness, of how fallen we are. He talks about the animals being better than us in the perspective of, if you leave out a sack of grain outside, even the birds are going to take up a few grains, fill up their tummy and go away. But a human is going to be the one who's going to pick up the entire grain and take it with him, the entire sack. So greed is to the extent that we're not looking up for satisfying our needs. We've gone beyond that. So that is what shows is the lack of knowledge. That we don't even understand what is our need. Like, we talked of the analogy of being healthy. What is the calorie intake that is needed by a human being of a particular age, of a particular gender, and we are stuffing ourselves, leading into an unhealthy life. We don't understand what is the need. That is why Krishna now says, go and get some knowledge. try and get some knowledge in order so that you be able to understand what's the right and what is the wrong. What is the need and versus what is the want. Come to that level of understanding. And then he says, once you come, he's saying, then engage yourselves in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Once you have come to the point of understanding the knowledge, just getting the knowledge is not enough. He says, go think about what you have done. Is the point where this knowledge turns into we meditating upon what are we doing. There is no use of knowledge otherwise. And a knowledge that we are trying to gather in terms of our degrees and everything is also useless 100% because that knowledge does not bring us to a point of meditation of understanding what are we doing and helps us progress further. So that again is not what Krishna is asking us to. Not that he's saying no, don't do it. Because to Arjuna also he is very clear that you're supposed to be fighting, but fight for me. That understanding he is giving of why that fighting needs to be done. So it's not like when we come to the process of bhakti, that Raganuga bhakti stage that we talked about is meaning that I'm not going to do anything. It means doing it intelligently. Understanding what actually makes sense. That's a first class devotee, is what Srila Prabhupada would say. Otherwise, come to the lowest stage of at least starting to get knowledge and then meditate on that knowledge of what is right versus what is wrong. So that is what Krishna is trying to teach us over here. This chapter of devotional service is focused around that, the entire Bhagavad Gita. And every aspect of the Bhagavad Gita revolves around this as a fact as to what is the purpose of our life. Do we ever do anything without understanding the purpose? Or without a purpose? Have we ever done anything without a purpose? I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it. I just feel like going to the university and studying. I just feel like driving. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm just doing it for the sake of doing it. Do we ever do that? No. We have some purpose. So what is the purpose of our life? What is the objective of our life? That's first stage. We talk about that, but that's not the ultimate stage. Because even when you say, what is the purpose of my life, we are still to a level, to an extent saying, okay, when the body ends, purpose is end. But understanding the real purpose means which goes beyond the body. That is why we have intelligence. The entire process of what Krishna is talking about, as Nectar of Devotion very beautifully gives us, is given to us for that particular reason. So let's not try and cheat ourselves and get robbed at every minute from the opportunity that has been given to us. What does being robbed mean? You have something with you which is of value, but it's taken away from you. That is robbing. You had something valuable, say cash with you, $1,000, $10,000 with you. You're walking down the street, somebody comes, grabs it from you and goes away. Is that being robbed? It is. What is the most valuable thing that you have right now? Every moment of yours in human form of life. We have achieved this after a lot of effort. Every movement that we are in this body is valuable. If we don't use it for the purpose it is meant for, we are wasting it. We are getting robbed. So let's be intelligent enough not to get robbed, but actually use this opportunity that we have been given for the right purpose, for reaching to the state of the Raganuga Bhakti, the highest stage where we are always thinking about Krishna and doing everything for him. If not able to do that, what we are supposed to do, keeping our ego aside, is to follow the process of sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is the rules and regulations, as we talked about. So what are these rules and regulations? There are a couple of things that has to be taken. Like again, we can go to the levels one by one and understand that. The minimum things, for examples, are like, let's stop doing things which is against the scriptures. intoxications, meat eating. Those are things which are not supposed to be done. Why? Are we able to very intelligently engage ourselves when we are drunk? We're not even allowed to operate a motorized vehicle in that state of mind. Think about operating your life. So that stage of mind does not help us give clarity of thought, that knowledge and meditation. We cannot do that if we are in that state. Anything else, that clarity of mind cannot come in when our mind is not clean. We cannot be clean if we are meat eating. So the four rules minimum that we talk about, and then we'll talk about more in terms of the do's. So no intoxication of any sorts, which in our case we also go to the level of saying we're not even going to take caffeine, because caffeine is also an intoxicant of a nature. We get addicted to caffeine. Don't talk to me till when I've had my morning coffee. I'm a monster till then. People say that proudly. Like, right? So that, then no meat eating of thoughts. That hardens your heart. When you are not even worried about that I'm killing somebody for the satisfaction of my tongue, that aspect hardens your heart. You have no mercy, no compassion left. You're so hard-hearted that there is no way you can even think clearly. Right? So no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. Gambling in any forms of bets or any other forms of gambling. Why? Because that puts us into so much of agitation. Is this stock price going to go up today or not? Am I going to win this bet or not? That state of mind of agitation cannot give you clear thoughts. So that is why it's a regulative principle. It should not be done. And finally is no illicit sex. So illicit sex means not indulging in any sorts of activity sexually which does not lead to having a kid, because that is what sexual activities are meant for. Anything outside that is illicit by a pure definition perspective. So these are the 4 rules, the 4 basic principles of sadhana bhakti that has to be followed. Then we add on with the do's on top of it. Chant, eat, everything needs to be offered to Krishna first. First offer to Krishna, then eat. We can start by saying, okay, every day morning I'm going to offer milk to Krishna and I'm going to have that before I go to bed. It's healthy also, having milk every day, but start offering that. Oh, I'm going to offer little nuts. Increase from there on. Coming to the point that I'm not going to eat anything that has not been offered first to Krishna. And there are verses which help us explain why. This is not just hypothetically created rules and regulations, there's a science behind it. Whatever we eat builds into our consciousness. How many of you love your mom's cooking? Love it, right? Satisfying, right? Why? The same recipe I cook, you will not get the same feeling. Why? Because there is love in the food. That love, it comes into your consciousness, it makes you feel good. If now imagine somebody cooks with a lot of hatred. I have to do this job again, man, this boss of mine. Dishes, so many dishes. Another order at this time? With that mentality, what is going on in your consciousness when you eat that? The same thing. And then we think, why do I get angry unnecessarily, man? Why did I react the way I did? Because the consciousness is flowing through food. So when you offer to Krishna, that consciousness does not transfer to you, because it's now Krishna's consciousness, Krishna consciousness. That is what comes to you. So chanting, eating, reading, because we cannot have faith, Shraddha, without knowledge. And if we don't have faith, Shraddha, then we'll not do anything. We'll just hypothetically keep talking about it, but never do it. So, and then finally, important is being in the association of like-minded good devotees. Because again, if you are in the association of people who do not want to read, come to the temple, you will never end up coming to the temple. You are the company that you keep. So A, association; B, books; C, chanting; D, diet. And finally, somebody told me this is the ABCD of bhakti, but somebody told me of an E afterwards also. Is being enthusiastic about bhakti. E. So that's ABCDE. Those are the do's. We talked about the 4 don'ts. And slowly and steadily, the more we read Nectar of Devotion, the more we will understand these aspects of sadhana bhakti. That is the stage we need to come to. Anything else that we do is purely a preparation. I'm studying a lot for my entrance exam. That is just preparation for you to get into the college to get a degree. You might have studied before that, done a lot of other things, but that's only preparation. That preparation qualifies you in order to be able to come to a point to get your degree, but that's by itself not the destination. So each of the aspect of sadhana bhakti, everything that we talked about, read, charitable mindset, etc., everything that we talked about is nothing but a step-by-step process for us to come to the point of sadhana bhakti first. Till when we are not strongly situated in sadhana bhakti, following the rules and regulations, we cannot come to the point of raganuga bhakti, doing things out of pure love. It is impossible. Even the acharyas who have come to the point, we talk about the great examples. We talked about Radharani, we talked about gopis, as one in Raganuga Bhakti, where out of spontaneous love they are doing things for Krishna. But we also have to understand the fact that there are other acharyas who have achieved that same stage. But in order to teach us, because acharya means a teacher, who is leading by example, in order to teach us, they continue to follow the process of sadhana bhakti. In order to, because if we be like, oh, he's not doing, I don't need to do. That is why they keep following it. That is the level of extent of importance that these rules and regulations have. So we have last 5 minutes approximately. If we have any questions, comments, feel free to come up with challenges also, because as we said, this is a discussion forum. I don't mind challenges also. We can debate it out and let's see what comes out of that conversation. So any questions, any comments from anybody? Anybody having their realization? Yes, Prabhu. One has to be? So out of mercy, somebody at a higher stage would do things of a lower stage also, but with the right intelligence. So that's a very good question you said. So we talked about the Raganuga Bhakti and Sadhana Bhakti. Our acharyas who are at the stage of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love for the Lord, will still perform Sadhana Bhakti, will still continue to follow rules and regulations, even if they are way above it. Let's take another example of being charitable, for example, as the hierarchy, right? Even at ISKCON, for example, we have Food for Life. There are so many different organizations around the world who are trying to feed the poor, feed the hungry. Oh, such a noble cause. But Krishna is saying that's not the highest point. So how do we make sure that we are showing ourselves at that same level and engaging people at that level while maintaining our higher stage of intelligence? We go and give out Krishna Prasada. Right? We offer it to the Lord. It's cooked with love and devotion for the Lord. And that, as we talked about the example, what you eat, that consciousness flows into you. So we are so-called feeding the hungry people. But we are going down at the levels and we are feeding the hungry people, but while maintaining the consciousness of the higher level of saying we are giving you Krishna Prasad. Because we understand the aspect that once you are engaged into eating Krishna Prasad, you will come to Krishna consciousness eventually. And you are hungry, understand this point very importantly, you are hungry and suffering not because you don't have money. You know, in the material world we say, instead of feeding a poor, skill them enough so that they can earn their own living. Try to fix the root cause. With people on higher intelligence, understand that that lack of resources is not because, like that suffering is not because of lack of resources itself. It is the reaction of the past karmas. It's the karma cycle. There is some action that was done previously, they are facing the consequences of that. Now we are doing two things at the same time. Food for life. One, we are feeding the empty stomach. We are also feeding them with Krishna consciousness so that their past karmas they are able to get out of that propensity because of which they had these past karmas done. And now they're suffering because of that. Cycle of suffering is also cut down. So if you don't have karmas because of which you're going to suffer, you're automatically going to be skilled and being able to get your livelihood. So that is where the higher aspect, they're automatically taking care of the lower aspects of actions, but then doing it much more intelligently. Same again as the question is, when we're saying be charitable, we talked about all of that, saying at least don't do destruction, any of that aspect. Why do we go up to the streets and okay, let me just reveal a secret, okay? Why do we go on the street and we go like, oh, somebody is chanting Hare Krishna and like dancing and everything? Why are they hurting their throat so much? So that all the living entities over there at least once hear the name of the Lord. Why? Because by hearing the name of the Lord, they will get purified to a stage to be able to come to the temple, because they are right now not coming to the temple. Then we say, please, please, please take a Bhagavad Gita, please, please. It is not a persistent person who is trying to get some commission out of a sale. Please, please hold it, please hold it. Please hold it once. Because once we have even held the Bhagavad Gita, our connection has started. That is why these devotees do that. They don't get money for doing all of these things. That is why their consciousness is, and they're engaging into so-called a business deal only in order to be able to give Krishna to somebody else and stop their suffering. Because somebody did that mercy to them. Does that help, Prabhu? Fantastic. Any other question or comment? Maybe we can take one more. We have last one. Yes. Yes. When it rains, it is up to us how wet do we want to get. You open an umbrella, you try to put a book on your head, you try to go in a shade, the rain is there. The only thing we need to do is to stop holding us back, which we involuntarily are doing. Now your question is very amazing, and I'm a living example of that. And I'll reveal that secret to you. The aspect of Shravanam, the first step, the listening part, even if involuntarily we do it nicely, has such potency that it can change a person overnight, even without the person realizing it. How do I say that with confidence? It happened to me. Don't tell this to my parents, okay? I'm going to get guilt. I started smoking when I was in grade 9. I started drinking when I was in grade 10. And I used to do that to such an heavy extent, which is beyond imagination. This is 2026, so 16 years ago. I had no idea what Hare Krishnas was. I had no idea what Jagannath was. I had no idea what ISKCON was. I somehow ended up volunteering myself for the Festival of India, which now we call the Chariot Festival. In that weekend, when I volunteered myself, I was requested saying, for these 2 days when you volunteer, please don't eat meat or something like that, because in the Lord's service. I said, fine. And in that 2 days of service, I was listening to the kirtan, I was listening to the devotees, I was listening to so many amazing discussions. 16 years I've not had any of that. And I had not stopped myself. It just went away. It took me a week to realize I had stopped. The desire was gone. Sounds a miracle, but it is true. There are a lot of friends of mine from that time frame which are still over here. They don't believe that 16 years over. It changed completely. Yes. And all of that, 2 days, was listening, Shravanam. So again, it was not like I was the most attentive listener. But that inattentive listening, in some cases even involuntary listening, did that to me over a weekend. So when we say it's a long-standing habit, it can all get cleansed. The power is there. It's okay. What we don't have to do is beat ourselves to death by saying, oh, I'm such a fallen soul, I cannot do anything, I'm hopeless, I cannot. No. That aspect of saying, that humility of saying, I'm such a fallen soul, I'm doing such a wrong, that aspect of guilt inside should only be a driving factor, not pressing down. Till then it is okay. Otherwise it's a problem. Because if you are saying, I need to improve, man, why am I doing the same mistake again? That is fine. Till when it is pushing you forward. But if it is pushing you down, saying, I'm useless, I cannot do anything, now you have a problem. So, stretch yourself to the maximum of your capability. And what you assess your capability, go one notch above, because that is more, you will underestimate yourself. So, it is possible. Just follow the process. The process of sadhana bhakti is rules and regulations only because once we follow, it automatically starts showing us results in some shape and form, even if we don't realize it. And I say this, I've said this probably in this forum so many times. You will not realize it first, that there is a change happening in you. Do you know who will realize it the first? Who in particular? Your mother. They are the first ones to realize that you're changing. Right? So you look at it, because again, everybody has their own experiences. So once you start doing the process, there will be a change. And that, so my Guru Maharaj has written a book, which is a very beautiful book. It's called Truth Works. And the way he describes the title is, the process of Krishna consciousness is truth. And it is a truth because it works. If you're getting anything else that does not work, it's not truth. So this is truth. This entire process as given in the Bhagavad Gita as Srimad Bhagavatam is truth. Follow it, you will see the difference automatically. It's like an experiment. Not satisfied, money back guarantee. Does that help? Yes. Anybody else? One final call for questions. Thank you so much. So this is the Tuesday Sangas. Every Tuesday, 6:30. There is Bhagavad Gita. The speakers will keep rotating. You all have a copy of Bhagavad Gita in your hand right now. If you don't have one at home, please feel free to take it home. The recommended donation is written on top. You can give it at the reception and take the copy home. That could be your first step as a starting. If you already have a Bhagavad Gita, talk to Prabhu about taking a Srimad Bhagavatam set at home. Because that's the next step then. You always have to continuously keep moving. Okay? Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.